network of influential women. Our next speaker practiced emergency medicine for years, reacting, resuscitating, racing the clock in the fast lane of crisis care. But years of ignoring her body's whispers of fatigue and inflammation nearly cost Dr. Seema Bonney everything. That near-death experience became her turning point. Today, as the owner of Anti-Aging and Longevity Center of Philadelphia, she helps others build strength and vitality before crisis forces their hands. Please help me welcome Dr. Seema Bonney. This one's definitely working.
Testing? Okay, that's good. Okay. Hi, ladies. I'm Dr. Seema Bonney. Quick shout out to Sarah, who I met when our little girls were in pre-K at Baldwin School. And I don't think you had started on this endeavor, at least not in the main line, right? And I know I hadn't started mine, so over the years, we don't talk often, but when we do, it's with a lot of mutual respect as we're fellow entrepreneurs and moms. Anyway, so I'd been a practicing emergency medicine physician for years, saving lives every day in the ER, not realizing that I was quietly putting my own at risk. With 3 young kids at home, I switched to night shifts to stay home during the day. I'd done this because our sitter hadn't shown up a couple days, and then my husband wasn't able to get to work to do his procedures on time. So I did what a lot of us women do. I sacrificed my own well-being so that everything else around me ran very smoothly, right? But the exhaustion of this lifestyle shift soon caught up with me. The things I had done my whole life, even going back to high school, to stay healthy, like eating well, moving my body, sleeping well, all these things started to fall apart because I really couldn't sleep. Sleep was scarce. My circadian rhythm was completely shot working nights. I'd crawl into bed at 8:30 in the morning, only to wake up about 2 hours later, exhausted, because our bodies were not meant to live against their natural clocks. When you fight your circadian rhythm, every system goes haywire. Hormones, metabolism, immunity, even your brain's ability to repair itself is impaired. Basically, what I was doing was literally aging myself rapidly at a cellular level, and I didn't even know it. So my body started whispering because it was trying to tell me something, the fatigue, the brain fog, the inflammation, until one day these whispers turned into a big scream, right? I was rushed to the ERs, diagnosed with pulmonary emboli. I was admitted to Penn for weeks, IV medications. I was told by multiple doctors who had seen my scans that I was lucky to be alive. Apparently my scans lit up like a Christmas tree. There were so many clots all over my lungs. But this didn't happen overnight, right? So for 2 years before that, I had seen physicians and said, something's not right. They had said, you're fine after a few cursory blood tests, but I know I didn't feel fine. A full hematology workup showed that everything was negative. There was no cause, no genetic reason for me to have had these blood clots. And when I asked the hematologist, well, what can I do to make sure this never happens again? Her response was, there's nothing you can do, but if it happens again, we'll put you on a blood thinner for life. What? This was my treatment plan? Just to wait and see and hope this life-threatening thing just never happens again? I had kids, I was a physician, a lot of different people depended on me. So this answer didn't sit well with me. In fact, the more I thought about it, I realized that, the hoping and praying strategy, to hope that this just didn't happen again, really was completely unacceptable, because if one of these clots escaped and went to my brain, which could easily happen, that would equal a stroke. So no, I wasn't going to accept this. So what did I start doing, right? I started digging. I read, I researched, I studied, and I kept coming back to how did the way I was feeling not show up in any of the blood work that was done? Because I knew something was off, but there were no answers in the standard tests that we had done. And that's when I discovered functional medicine, a field not about waiting for you to get sick, but about looking at root causes and figuring out how to avoid illness before it actually even happens. And that discovery changed everything for me. I went back to school. I studied bioidentical hormone therapy, gut health, cardiovascular and metabolic medicine. I revisited micronutrients. We spent half a year in med school, every med student does, studying biochemistry. And then we as physicians never think again, if someone's feeling some way, maybe it's because something is missing in their body that they need. But even the slightest deficiencies of these micronutrients can actually affect large changes in a person's energy, mood, and even longevity. And that's when I realized something really profound, that resilience isn't just about rising when you fall, but about building the strength, the knowledge, and the vitality so that you never fall that far down to begin with. Even after I recovered, which took many months, I couldn't go back to practicing emergency medicine the way I had. I had fallen out of love with traditional medicine, the kind of medicine that waits for crisis. What I had fallen in love with was the medicine of possibility, the kind of medicine that keeps you vibrant, that keeps you strong and sharp for decades and decades to come. And that's what I call proactive aging, staying ahead of the curve, supporting your body before it sends distress signals. It's about aging strong, feeling great, having the energy, clarity, and confidence to be the badass mom, badass grandmom later, who's also a business owner, a leader, a woman fully in her power. And that's what I do now. I help build that foundation so that a person's energy, hormones, sleep, and their bodies work for them as opposed to against them. Remember, guys, wellness is multidimensional. It's not just any one thing. People often say to me, "You're a longevity expert. Tell me one thing that I can do." But really, it's a long game, and it's multi-variables involved. So it's not just about your hormones. It's not just about what you're eating. It's about connecting every piece of the puzzle, creating a game plan where you can live with energy, clarity, and purpose for decades and decades to come. At our practice, we're all about building a life where you feel 100% of the time. Because prevention isn't just about avoiding disease, it's about slowing, and in some cases, reversing the process of aging. And that's what true longevity medicine makes possible. We are all phoenixes, but we don't have to wait for the ashes to rise. We can choose to rise right now. Thank you.